and welcome to this episode of the Branching Out podcast, where we are catching up with Tom Goodman, our Director of Energy. That is a big title. He is going to talk to us all about what the energy division is up to and how they are expanding their business. Right, let's get started. Right. Hi there, Tom, and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Um, let's just dive in. Let's get started. How are you? How are you doing today? What's going on in your world?
Very well, thank you. Yes, busy time of the year for us. Obviously, big growth year for the energy business. So, yeah, in the thick of it, just closed out Q1. So, a lot of plans in motion, a lot of balls in the air. So, no, good to get away from it for the moment, actually, and yeah, think about something else for half an hour.
Well, I am going to ask you a little bit about what you guys have been up to. I guess could you maybe introduce yourself a little bit? How long have you been in ground control and working in EV? And yeah, I guess just give us a little bit of an idea of what your world looks like. What are you what are you up to?
Yeah, so I've been with ground control for almost 5 years now. Time's flown by. Joined as a senior ops manager really to help steer our EV business off the ground when it was part of a construction business. Back then we were very immature as a business. Myself and my colleague Rob were in the team together. And yeah, 4.5 years later, we're a team of 18 strong now, looking after the energy business where we are across EV, PV, solar, and building decarbonisation. So looking at far wider category of solutions now for our clients as they progress on their journeys through carbon zero.
Yeah, I can actually, I almost remember when Rob moved over and you joined the EV team, and it was just like, I think we're gonna do stuff at houses, we're gonna do a bit commercially. So it sounds like you've really grown the business in the last few years then, because I've been away from the business a bit, so I don't really know all of the services that you guys provide these days. So is it still like doing in-home charging units? And I guess could you give me a bit more idea of what it is that you guys are offering these days?
Yeah, so our EV business, we're still very heavy in the fleet domestic space. We're installing chargers for fleet drivers. Obviously, a very successful rollout with BT Openreach. We've now installed 2,500 chargers across BT engineers' homes on that contract, which is a great achievement. And got a few of the other major fleets now approached us a few years on, having struggled with their previous suppliers. So exciting stuff happening there. And then we've got our major projects business, where we're focused more on workplace charging, and now looking as well into the kind of world of DC charging hubs, public charging infrastructure, and many others. So that business is really growing now, which is brilliant. And yeah, the PV business, solar PV. So focus there on building PV, so roof mounted, across our client portfolio of properties, but also looking at solar farm as well. So we've done a couple of projects so far, actually supporting some main contractors on their solar farm builds, with civils
Okay.
and LV electrical. And then building decarbonisation services is all around looking at the client's customers' properties, looking at their operating costs. How can we reduce their operating costs, make their buildings more efficient, decarbonise their buildings,
Okay.
and yeah, they all kind of piece together really well. Actually, what we're finding. So it's going to be a big year of change, I think, this year as we transition away from just a single EV business into offering clients solutions across the whole of their journey, really.
Yeah, no, because you see that a lot more. Like, I feel like every time I turn the corner these days, I live a bit in the countryside. It seems like there's a new solar farm popping up, or
Yeah.
when you go somewhere and if you get any sort of a height, you can look out and you see more and more solar installations, I think across the board for businesses, or you see them popping up behind larger buildings, assuming to support that building's energy cost. So that's got to present itself some, obviously it's exciting, it's very exciting to hear about, and it's exciting to kind of branch out as well to offer lots of more different services than just the what we started out with as a business. Has that presented any challenges for you guys? I mean, you've grown massively in size as well, for people. So has that presented any challenges that you've had to kind of overcome in the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, there's all the standard usual challenges that we have with any fast growth business, really. While still trying to grow an EV business, we're starting up two separate businesses with the solar PV and the decarb. So all of those startup challenges we're facing twice as much now as we did with EV. And the growth trajectories, are really steep, and there's a lot of new skill sets, knowledge bases that we've got to quickly learn and understand, as well as grappling with the industries as they're ever changing. There's some positive stuff coming out from the government change with onshore wind and the implementation of solar farms and the reduction of restraints in planning. So there's some positive sets of movement in the industry. And as a business, we've got to keep up with that. So, we've got to manage the day-to-day run a business where, I think we've installed just over 5,500 chargers now out of our 10,000 target, which I must say, when I joined, thought was a unachievable goal. Was going to be tough.
Yeah,
but,
there's a lot there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I signed up to it, and we're doing it, which is fantastic. But yeah, there's a lot of spinning plates, in a relatively small team at the moment. So.
I guess how do you guys stay on top of, like, are you kind of dedicating time for that learning piece, or like are you just kind of learning as you go? I guess, how are you as a team managing that, trying to keep up with that knowledge and be able to be
I'd
expert?
say that there's a mix really. I mean, there's a huge amount of shared knowledge across the industry.
Yeah.
From our clients through to our supply chain, we're very, very close with everyone. And conversations we're having, we'll talk 50% work and business and what's happening and what project we might be working on, and the other 50% will be around latest innovations, what the government's doing, and what other partners, competitors are doing. We're even close to our competitors as well, because actually we find there's enough work in the industry, and actually we can learn from each other and best help each other.
Yeah.
So there's a huge amount of that shared learning, which is really beneficial. The other side is, of course, your news articles, and LinkedIn's very helpful for sort of publishing industry updates. I think LinkedIn's a platform now that people like to shout about things and often boast about things as well. So there's often some great articles you can read there. And yeah, we follow all of our competitors, all of our clients, all of our supply chain on LinkedIn. And we see a lot happening. So lots of avenues. Obviously in this world, there's a lot of standard technical knowledge and training and qualifications that the team have to do to be up to date to regulations and code of practices. So that also forms a part of it.
Yeah, so it's really taking that time. It's not just talking. You can't just talk business. You do take that time out to talk about what is coming and what's new. And that's a good shout out for anyone that's interested maybe in learning more, is to follow you and your team on LinkedIn, or is there yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And if you're seeing us around in the offices, things like that, stop and have a chat. The team always willing and keen to talk about things, talk about what we're doing, and the growth and success of all of our business units within ground control are going to come off the back of us all integrating and working together, really.
So is there like a top 3 like topics or that you guys are focusing on for at all that's out there that?
I would say focus at the moment is around our newest growth areas. We've got a good footprint in the EV industry now. We've had some tremendous success. The beginning part of this year with some major framework awards, which is fantastic, which is the kind of movement and shift change we wanted to see as we were growing.
Well done.
Our solar PV, is paramount now. I'd say it's an area that everyone's fairly au fait with across ground control and everywhere, really. We all understand what solar PV is and the basics of how it works and what it achieves. So I think there's a real focus there on getting conversations going and allowing people to speak to clients. Everyone has a building or land, right? It's kind of the genetics of any business. So and matched with that is the building decarbonisation. Understanding, do clients, do partners of ours have net zero ambitions, or they're simply trying to reduce operating costs of their buildings as it gets more and more expensive to operate and run a building. Those are the areas we can really focus and help with and support.
Yeah, it's very twofold. You can help make things better, but then also like it ultimately has to make it cost sense at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Right. Obviously, we are the L&D team. We talk about development, we talk about training. Is there anything specifically you and your team are doing to further your development? I know you mentioned doing some professional qualifications and obviously the knowledge share across the industry, which is really great. How are you developing yourselves as a team? Because obviously you're quite a young team within the business, and a lot of new people that are probably joining like the last 3 to 5 years. So, how are you developing your team, and what are you guys focusing on to develop yourselves?
I think there is a key focus there on industry knowledge, and the technical qualifications that the team have to have. That's almost the day to day for the majority of the team. I think as you say there, as a young growing team, the focus that I've always had with the team is all around the kind of leadership development and growing everyone in the team to be the kind of best that they can be, and allow their own career path. So we put a real focus on that in every level in the team, really, through various avenues, through mentorship, with other members of the organisation. Many of my SLT are mentoring with a lot of the exec at the moment to really understand better leadership qualities, how to build their resilience training and things like that. Ultimately, the speed we have to grow as a business to meet our budgetary targets is more so than the organic growth of someone through their career, I would say.
Yeah.
So we have to put that extra focus there to really help grow everyone as quick as the business is trying to grow, because ultimately otherwise we'll end up with an organizational structure that doesn't fit the business, and we'll have to start recruiting a huge amount at a higher level in the team, which is not what I want, and not what the team has kind of bought into. The team has kind of joined this business to grow and build their careers in line with the growth of the business. So for me, that's where I've always put the most attention, and will continue to do so, is actually how can we grow the team into be better leaders, and grow their skill sets in those fashion, really.
Right. And so, uh, thank you very much, information. Is there anything you think that the company should know or needs to know about EV or energy solutions, really?
I wouldn't say they need to know about EV. No, I think it's reinforcing the message around the diversification of the business into our energy business now.
Yeah.
It's easy for people to think of us as an EV business because that's where we've been, seen a lot of our success over the last 5 years. But as we always have done, the focus for us isn't about the services we offer. The focus for us has always been around the needs of our clients. So for us, the energy solutions is paramount for what our clients are asking for and looking for at the moment. So if there's anything that I'm really kind of pushing out to the business at the moment, is to think wider about us and think, actually, what can we offer to our customers? If they don't want EV chargers out the front, if they're not engaged in
Yeah.
electrification right now, yeah.
So not to take up too much of your time, that's not the point of this podcast, but let's just maybe try to impart a bit of knowledge on our folks that are listening. So my last question really is, what is the best piece of advice that you have ever been given?
Best piece of advice that I've been given, I would say, is control the controllables. Now, don't ask me who told me because I can't actually remember. But that for me has always been something I've kind of lived by throughout my career. Any given situation you're in, it can look daunting at times, to whether it's a challenge you're facing in personal life, professional life, whether it's a growth target that you have. You can look at a situation and really kind of be phased by all the elements that have got to happen and fall into place for that to be achieved. Controlling the controllable is always something I've lived by, and say, well, actually, what are the things I can control in this situation to get the outcome I want? Put the focus there, and then it's important to action them and be able on those controllables, and then manage that, focus on that, and everything else will tend to fall into place. You have to continually reflect and adjust, of course, as you're going through any journey. But that's something for me that it's a massive one for reducing stress, anxiety, and everything else that you can often face when challenged with a problem you probably don't know the situation and the answer to yet. But what you will find is if you control those controllables to begin with, you'll be halfway there, and actually when you're halfway there, you'll have a far clearer vision of how to get to the end point. So yeah, that would probably be the one bit of advice I would try and impart to those that are looking at big problems and don't know how to tackle them.
Yeah, no, it's a great piece of advice around resilience. Really, that's probably one of the that is one of the ways people or one of the bits of advice around resilience is focusing on what you can control and breaking it down and actioning it as such. So no, it's a brilliant takeaway. Thank you very much, Tom, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Not at all. Enjoyed it.
Take care. Thanks all for listening to another episode of the Branching Out podcast. If you'd like to get involved in the podcast, please reach out to the training department and training at ground-control.co.uk. Until next time.